Shut up and sit down.
Hey, I'm Simon.
I'm Ellie.
And if you enjoy our videos, then please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell thing. That would be very, very kind of you indeed. Thank you. And we are being surprised tonight by recommended movies that you, our viewers, have recommended we check out, and we have, of course, never seen them.
So what do we have coming up next?
Well, next up we have a 2019 Hindi language movie which is essentially a dramatization of the historical events around the 2016 terrorist attack on an Indian base in a town called Uri. So this movie effectively tells the story of a major in the Indian Army who decides that he wants to retire, take a desk job, and spend his remaining years looking after his mother where he grew up, which seems like a reasonable ask. However, like in all movies where somebody wants to retire, things don't go as planned. So after this 2016 terrorist attack, he's actually prompted to lead a surgical strike in retaliation.
Wow.
Now, you might expect that a retaliation is fly a drone or press a button to launch a missile or something, but this was a lot more hands-on. And because there were anti-aircraft guns along the border, he actually had to lead his troops through some caves, which must have been pretty terrifying, because not only did he have to operate in complete darkness, going through these caves that were not mapped out at all, but those caves were also full of terrorist cells, so you never know what you're going to come up against.
That does sound scary.
Yeah, exactly. So a good degree of bravery involved. We normally try to avoid movies that are political because it's so divisive. However, critics have said about this movie that regardless of what side of the political divide you're on, you should still be able to enjoy this movie for its clever writing, its incredible cinematography, and for its top-notch acting and visual effects. So I think we should give Uri, the Surgical Strike, we should give the trailer a roll at least, and then we will be back afterwards to let you know what we think about it.
Definitely. Let's go.
Let's go! Oh, wow.
हिंदुस्तान के आज तक के इतिहास में हमने कभी भी किसी दूसरे मुल्क पे पहला वार नहीं किया है। (1947, 65, 71, 99) यही मौका है उनके दिल में डर बिठाने का कि हिंदुस्तान अब चुप नहीं बैठेगा। ये नया हिंदुस्तान है। ये हिंदुस्तान घर में घुसेगा भी और मारेगा भी।
And now that we've seen the teaser, we're now going to check out the full trailer.
Let's go.
Let's go again! Whoa.
फर्ज और फर्जी में बस एक मात्रा का अंतर होता है। अगर मैं अपने देश, अपने भाइयों के लिए अब नहीं लड़ा, तो मैं अपनी नजरों में फर्जी बन के रह जाऊंगा। सर, आई प्रॉमिस यू, आप मुझे कहीं भी भेज दीजिए, मैं अपने हर एक सिपाही को जिंदा सही सलामत वापस लाऊंगा।
पाकिस्तान जो भाषा समझता है, उसी भाषा में पाकिस्तान को समझाने का समय अब आ गया है।
Oh my God.
सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक सर।
उरी हमले का हैंडलर कौन था? प्लानिंग कहाँ हुई?
भरोसा तो कीजिए। मैं
ज्यादा नाटक किया ना तो तेरे अखरोट तेरे मुंह से बाहर निकाल दूंगी।
Wow.
जसकीरत जी को देशभक्ति दिखाने का वक्त आ गया। You're going to be my pilot, सीरत।
कि हिंदुस्तान अब चुप नहीं बैठेगा। ये नया हिंदुस्तान है। ये घर में घुसेगा भी और मारेगा भी।
चिंगारी जिद से जुनूं तक है जाना हर कतरा बोल रहा
वक्त आ गया है खून का बदला खून से लेने का
मैं लड़ जाना
दोस्त इंडियन आर्मी ने ये जंग शुरू नहीं की थी बट वी विल ब्लडी हेल फिनिश इट हाउ इज द जोश हाउ इज द जोश जय हिंद
अल्लाह फिरते बच के कफन जग तुरिया तन के मौत नू बचा मारे कफन पर कब दे सारे अल्लाह फिरते बच के कफन जग तुरिया तन के मौत नू बचा मारे कफन पर कब दे सारे
उन्हें कश्मीर चाहिए और हमें उनका सर
Nice. Whoa.
Never look back at an explosion.
Oh my goodness. So we've just seen not only the teaser, but also the trailer for Yuri the Surgical Strike. And I've got to say up front as well, like, you know, I've got good friends who are Indian, I've got good friends who are Pakistani. I kind of feel like the bad guys in that whole conflict were really the British Raj who divided the country and caused that whole mess. So as much as British people aren't necessarily the bad guy in this movie, honestly, in my opinion, it's the British who are really at fault there. But anyway, politics aside, wow, this looks like one heck of a movie. What did you think of Yuri the Surgical Strike?
It's very different to the other movies that we've seen, kind of along a similar vein. It didn't seem like there wasn't the same kind of, not exactly humorous side, but like there wasn't, it seemed to be very heavy and very action forward. I think the style of this is very different. We're not seeing the same kind of, like, it's almost ballet-like, the way we've seen some of the choreography in previous movies, whereas this was very action forward and there was it was a lot of substance with a bit less of that kind of artistic side of it.
Yeah, very modern. Would you say then less visually stunning than I would normally say?
Differently visually stunning.
Yeah.
And it's quite emotionally weighty as well, with like the grieving that was focused on so much.
But when you consider as well, this was a conflict that really, well, I guess kicked off hundreds of years ago, but, you know, these events were just 5 years ago. So a very raw to real people who would have lost people during this conflict. You know, one thing that really came through in the teaser more than the actual trailer that really resonated with me that I just hadn't thought about before was India is never the first country to strike. And I love that attitude that, you know, the nation is relatively not passive, but somewhat pacifist. Like, not an aggressive nation that's out there, you know, storming territories and taking over countries. But I do feel that with any nation, there's only so far you can push them before enough is enough and you have to strike back. And that's what, obviously, the theme of this movie is. The line between responsibility and irresponsibility that they were talking about. I'm not a massive fan of, like, modern warfare movies. Honestly, I like Second World War and beyond actually doesn't draw me in as much. Like, I've always said on this, I'm just such a sucker for people with swords and axes and bows and arrows and that kind of raw bravery that you needed there. Not to say that you don't need bravery. I mean, clearly in this case. And I think that's actually what really appeals to me about this, is it's not, you know, hundreds of thousands of people on a giant battlefield. It's not like super modern weaponry. This is soldiers, like maybe a dozen of them, you know, just intruding on an enemy's space and trying to take over that space. And that to me does seem to require a good amount of bravery, and it's a lot more kind of intimate as well. So that actually really did appeal to me more than other kind of modern soldier warfare type movies do appeal to me. But yeah, I think you were right. I think no humor in this one, quite rightly. Probably minimal dance numbers. I'm not expecting too many. Although actually I did see one of the songs from this movie was like one of the most watched videos on YouTube. So I think we'll have to check that out. I think the other thing that really struck me about this as well was you see the kind of the typical, and I guess, you know, being in the West, a lot of the war movies we see these days are based in Iraq or in Afghanistan, and they're in mountains and deserts, and that there's that kind of look to them. They're like, you know, kind of brown sand dunes and things with people in camo running up and down them. So we're very used to that kind of a war scene. What we're not used to, though, that really kind of shocked me and seemed so unique about this, was the main actor just running down that street in a suburban neighborhood. And just the thought that, you know, you are entering a country where regular people live, where people have their homes and their day jobs, that it's not just some war zone. This is just suburbia. And I have no idea how this movie plays out, but I like the point that the critics made in the reviews that regardless of which side of the political divide you're on, this tells a historically accurate story that is compelling to watch. And that, you know, that really appeals to me. So I would say thank you so much for recommending Yuri the Surgical Strike. This is probably not one that I would have expected to want to watch. But actually, I find it really, really compelling.
Yeah, it does sound like an incredible story.
Well, there you go, friends. As usual, we are extremely grateful for you recommending Yuri the Surgical Strike. And if you think of any other movies like this that we may enjoy, please throw them in the comments. We would love to hear from you. And if you loved Yuri, if you hated it, we would love to hear why and what it was that made you feel that way. But for now, this is all we got for you. So we will see you next time on the next Dork Trailer Ambush.
Peace out, nerds.
Bye.
Shut up and sit down.